Okay, hello and welcome and buenos dias from Bavaria. My name is Gregor Wolf and I want to give you the presentation on getting started with CAP for ABAPers. So what is CAP? CAP stands for the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model, and that is a way to create business applications really from start and idea very quickly to having an API and even a Fiori UI. Let me show you that. And first of all, I want to compare. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't zoom in here, but let's try another. I hope you can read it. So first of a comparison between ABAP and CAP. So you know a little bit about what tools you use normally in ABAP for your IDE. I hope you're using ABAP in Eclipse. In CAP, you can use SAP Business Application Studio, and that I will use also today. Its short abbreviation is BAS, Business Application Studio. But you can also develop local with VS Code and Vim. When you want to do the data definitions, so in ABAP, you would go into in the data definition, seems to be a mistake here. You have to put in SE11. So because you want to create database tables. In CAP, you put in or creating CDS. So ABAP and also CAP are using CDS. They are quite similar, but are different dialects. So, and then for your OData service definition, here we should have the SEGW. And in CAP, you do also the OData definition in CDS. To write custom logic, in ABAP, of course, you have our beloved ABAP language. And in CAP, you have the choice between Java or JavaScript, because CAP allows you to run in two different runtimes. One is Java and one is Node.js, which is a JavaScript runtime. To expose your OData services, in ABAP, you need to remember this transaction code, this /IWFND main_service. In CAP, if you want to, during development, you're using a command line command called CDS space watch or CDS run. CDS watch has the benefits that every time you save a change to a file, the service is restarted and you can directly test what you changed. The application server is either for ABAP, of course, our NetWeaver application server, or now in newer times, I think I should add that too, is ABAP environment in the SAP Cloud Platform, also known as Steampunk. For CAP, there is a Java and also a Node.js runtime. I will show my example today in Node.js because that's what I'm really getting more and more used to. I've tried also the Java part, but that was really hard, and there is so much boilerplate still around. The Node.js is really much more straightforward. You can run it in production on SAP Cloud Platform Cloud Foundry environment, and that I think is really, now I think it gives new life to the HANA XSA programming or runtime environment. You can also deploy it on HANA XSA. With some limitations on the UI part, because you're always behind regarding the SAP UI5 libraries, but that's really also a valid option. And you can try that also for free with HANA Express Edition. For databases, we know that the classical ABAP stack runs on many databases, not just SAP HANA, as now S4HANA does, but you can get from SAP, you can get ASE and MaxDB. Why I have two Ys here. And there's also other vendors like Oracle, MS SQL Server, IBM DB2. So that's the database layer. You can run it. In CAP, there is one database which is used for local development, is SQLite. And that is really purely for development purpose, not for production. There is a community project now starting to get support for PostgreSQL. It's in the early stages, but due to contributions over the last weekend, it got now full CRUD support. Unfortunately, it does not yet support drafts. And if you want to go full production ready, then SAP HANA, of course, is your choice. So that's a short comparison. Are there any questions in the chat, David? Or if not, I will continue. Otherwise, just throw them in. And we'll do the commercial. Oh, yeah. Question?
No questions. You can go on.
Good. So one commercial break. I want to advertise this CDS PG project because we are taking part in the Devtoberfest. I hope you already heard of that. So if not, just simply open the link. I will send out the presentation link afterwards, and you will get to the projects list of the Devtoberfest here on GitHub. If you then click on the link in general for Devtoberfest, you get a description what it is about. SAP provides a lot of sessions describing or explaining all the technologies. And then there is a build week. And in this build week, you will be able, or all these contributions will be counted to like the challenge. And it might be the option that there is a special celebration then at TechEd. I haven't read into all the details, but perhaps if you want to learn something new, help us to make the CDS PG adapter better. Good. Let's now have a look what I want to demo or create together with you. Our business case. Yeah, we are still in the Corona times, and there are these regulations that like visitors need to register. We have the case, we have a customer experience center, and they need a way to register visitors and track them when they entered and left the building, entered the building and when they left. So that's our case, and let's build that. And I'm using the Business Application Studio, and to get my notes ready here, and I've already started the Business Application Studio. If you want to do the same, simply head out to hanatrial.ondemand.com and register for the free trial account. And the Business Application Studio is already then active for you. The only thing what you have to do is you have to create one so-called workspace. How it's called? Yeah, there is a workspace. And then you can get started and do the same. So let me do it, create project from template. And here you get then a selection of different templates, might be different, whatever you've chosen during the activation. I will choose a CAP project, of course. And we have to give this project a name. Let's take the name, which I've used also in my preparation. Visitor, let's call it visitor registration. Good. For the moment, we don't want to make any complexity, so we don't add HANA. I don't want to do Java project. I don't want to build an MTA, which is like the deployment possibility to the SAP Cloud Platform. I don't want to use build pipelines, and I don't want to have sample data because I came up with my own data model. Okay, let's go next. And after this next, the project has been generated. Well, what would you like to do with it? Well, let's open it in a workspace. Because now I'm only in this project, visitor registration, and can completely focus on the content here. So let's have a look what was generated for us. There is a folder app, a folder DB, and SRV. App, there we will put into our UI parts, so Fiori applications. So the front end part. The DB folder is for obviously DB stands for database. So that is database artifacts, so tables that should be created. And then there is SRV for service or server. And here we have then our OData service. What you also see there is some other files, a CDSRC. Let's have a look if there's something in here. No, an empty JSON file, just curly brackets, open and close. And there is ESLint RC. That is a configuration for the JavaScript linter, which is set up to not that some of the statements are simply just taken there, are available, and are global variables, so it will not complain. And then there is a really important file, the package.json. This package.json defines what dependencies need to be installed to make this application work. We will have shortly, we will have a look into that file and use a command that will install this dependencies. So let's get started with our DB folder. So we have to create a data schema, and to do that, I do a right click here, new file, and create a file called schema.cds. So we're creating a CDS artifact, and empty file for the moment. And what I want to do is I want to put this schemas. It's very common, or the best practices to define first a namespace. And the nice thing here in Business Application Studio, but also when you do it in Visual Studio Code, you can install the CDS tooling, and then you get code completion or suggestions. So for example, for the namespace, it suggests me DB, but I want to use SIT BCN, of course. And now we have the namespace defined, and the first thing we have to create is an entity. And for an entity, I use the second suggestion because that brings me a very basic entity definition. And I will call my entity visitors. So that is my the list of visitors to our customer experience center. What we see now here is already one suggestion for an artifact that was not found, CUID. What's very nice is that SAP provides you some predefined data types which you can reuse in your project. So you don't have to create some data types always from scratch. And to do that, I want to use something. And now it brings me a using. And this using is then pointing, or by default goes to this SAP CDS common library. But you see, it's in the moment, it's still red. And that is because we haven't installed yet the dependencies that are defined in our package.json into our project. So what do we have to do? For an ABAPer, that will be really can be quite a challenge because you have to use a terminal. I think you're normal if you're developing ABAP, terminal is really foreign to you. But get used to it, and I think terminal, as DJ Adams says, terminal is the future. And let's do here an npm base I. So that means we're starting a tool called npm node package manager, and the I is the short for install. And now we are this command checked now what is defined here in dependencies and also in dev dependencies. And all that was needed was now installed in a folder called node modules. And when you look in there, you see there is quite a lot was created here. And if you look into SAP CDS, we will also find a file called common CDS. So let's have a look if we now. What I can do is, unfortunately, it has not yet recognized that this file is there. Now, after one change, it recognized it. What I can do, I can navigate to this file. So there is forward navigation also built in here. So now let's have a look where we can find this CUID. So let's go in here. Control F is the search. And here we see now there is an abstract entity, CUID, which defines a key field ID from type UUID. So it's a global unique identifier is used as a data type, which is automatically filled in. Okay, nice to know. And that is what we want to use in also here, because we don't want to care about creating unique IDs. So let's SAP take care about that. And what I still have to do, I have to make this type available here in this local environment. And that is here in this curly brackets. It takes, looks into this file, and by name matching, which I just use the same name here, I get this data type available. And now everything is fine here, and we can start really now to create our data model. So let's not bore you with me typing here. That is something which I've prepared and just will explain to you then after I've inserted here. So let's use a given name, last name, phone number, and email. So that's for the start for our user registration. And one aspect that I, for the moment, will not create already, I will just leave it in here so we can update it later, is the thing for internationalization. So we can have multi-languages supported in our for our application. Good. So that is our data definition. Let's save it. And now, after we saved it, let's have a look what will happen when we run this application already right now. So I've said to run the application, there is CDS space watch. And yeah, there is something now happening. There is here server listening on something. And let's see, a server is listening on port 4004. Okay, let's open a new tab. Okay, so we have a welcome page. So that's what we done so far. These are the parts currently served. There's nothing here, yeah, but there was a message here, no service definitions found in loaded models, waiting for some services to arrive. Okay, let's try to do that. Let's create a service. So I go, now we have defined a database layer. Now let's define a service layer with a new file. I call it visitor registration service.cds. Visitor registration service.cds. That's okay. And to really serve something here, first we want to reuse our data model. So again, this using command. And now we don't want to use the SAP common. We want to use something which is in our environment here. So I simply just pressed dot because I'm here in a subfolder SRE. I want to go up one folder and into the DB folder. The nice thing is co-completion has me already covered. So I have now the schema available. And now let's see what I can use from there. I can use from there our namespace, which we defined, this sit BCN. As you remember, here was our namespace. And this namespace I'm using now to reference all the objects or entities which are defined in the schema. And now we can start to create a service. So I start typing S, and you see, I also get a suggestion for that, service. And I don't want to call it my service. I want to call it visitor registration service. And in the service, I want to expose the visitors. And for that, I have to use again the keyword entity, but in this case, I will use a simple projection. I want to have the visitors as a projection on the sit bcn.visitors. So this is now creating in the database. It will create a view for the visitors, and that view is simply then just reading all the data from the database table visitors. So, and now look careful here on the start command. I press the Ctrl S for save. Now it's restarting, and there is no complaint anymore about there is no service available. Okay, now let's have a look. I have not closed the tab which was empty before. Let's reload here, and now we have a running service. So from start, I think we started 2:15 to now our first running service, which with already a lot of explanations, 20 minutes. So time to service, that is really key with CAP. So we have now a service endpoint that tells us which entities are available. We have a metadata file. One thing to notice here is CAP by default provides you OData version 4. And that is sometimes really tricky when you want to use Fiori elements, because the OData v4 support in SAP UI5 is not yet completed. There is a beta program running in the moment, and it will hopefully until TechEd time will be released. So you have then full OData v4 support. Let's have a look on visitors. Unfortunately, it's completely empty. Okay, so let's give it a try to change that. So there is also some test data in here, because CAP makes it really easy to get test data in your service. So the first step you do is create a subfolder in DB called data. And in this subfolder, we have to create a file that follows a special naming convention. In CAP, there is a lot about convention over configuration. So you have not seen me yet doing any changing any configuration file. I've really focused on the business case. We have an entity, and we've provided that now as a service. So let's create now some test data. So the naming convention is you have to take the namespace, and after the namespace a dash, and then the entity name, and name then the CSV file .csv. So create a new file. So sit bcn -visitors.csv. And in this file, let's put in some data. And the data we have to follow or fill the columns. So we have to fill a column given name, a column last name, and I will fill only a column email. I will leave out the phone number for the moment. And let me first put in myself. Good. And let's save that. And let's have a detailed look here on the output of the start command, because you see here this gray line filling sit-bcn visitors from DB data sit-bcn visitors. Nice. So it seems to have worked. Let's reload here. Let's go to the visitors, and we see we have a result. We get the data. There is now the GUID is automatically created for us, and we have some data. What I will do is to keep the GUID consistent. I will add also an ID column, which is uppercase ID, and use this GUID that was created here. So that every time because every time the server is restarted, it will refill also the data. If I don't specify the GUID, it will always create a new one. So, but doing it that way, it will always be the same. Let's do also a second line. And let's have a look if also the second line is working. Okay, very nice. To not always needing the switch between browser tabs, what I want to suggest that you use is use the tool that is built in Business Application Studio, which is an REST client, and let's create a new file. First, a new folder called test. So that is my pattern, or I think also the Capkim does that. And I create here visitor registration.http, because what I can do now is I can take this localhost URL, put in a get in front of it, and say I want to access. Let me just copy the URL that was used here, and let's have a look, because then you have directly in your IDE, your integrated development environment, you see also the results here. So you have then no more switching over to other tabs or so. You can directly have a look at the data, and that's I'm using really quite often. So let's close a little bit down to focus. And so we have now a working service. But is this service also working with Fiori? Unfortunately, in the moment, it's not working with Fiori, because there was something changed, and now it's required to have at least some annotations available for the UI to work. So what I will do is I will create another file called Fiori annotations.cds. And in this file, I will also use the database schema from the SID-BCN and use some prepared data, because I think time is running quickly. So let's do it with that. What I do here is I have now annotated the visitor's entity with UI annotations. And this UI annotations, the most important one to remember for the moment is selection fields and line items. Selections fields are the columns you want to filter with for, or that should be available as a filter. And line items are the columns that should be displayed in the result table. So now let's have a look. Let's reload the Fiori preview. And nice to see, we have now a Fiori UI for our application. Let's start it. We can filter by given name. Filter is working. And what we can also do is we can navigate to the detail page. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to show. And I want to give you the time for questions. And also perhaps 5 minutes of break before the next session starts. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Gregor. We are currently check if there is any question on the chat. At the moment, there is no questions for you.
Okay, good. So, well, what we can do, I go a little bit on and do the internationalization. So, because we
yes, you can proceed because we have time. We have 5-6 minutes.
Yeah. So what I left out before, but what we seen is that it was working when we looked in the Fiori application. There were already some texts here in the table headers, but that is not really nice text. That is just the names which we defined here. And as long as there is no internationalization files, it will take this. So let's do the internationalization. In the DB folder, I create first a new folder called _ I18N. Not really sure why they haven't chosen the I18N, just plain, as it's done in the SAP UI5 applications. But okay, so and here a new file i18n.properties, properties, and here we have to fill also then the translations, and I've prepared that. And now let's have a look when we now restart our server and restart the application. We get now nice descriptions of our table. And everywhere these columns or names are used, we get them also used here. So very nice. But you see already here in my environment, I have filter anpassen and start. So that is the German, of course. And I want perhaps also to have some German descriptions. So what do I need to do? I need to copy this file and paste it. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that really well. This copy paste does not work yet. Really, so let me just create a new file, i18n_de.properties. And now let's copy first this content, but Vorname, Familienname, Telefon und E-Mail. So let's try that. It's restarted. Let's reload. And let's see if we have now. Yeah, we have now German texts here. And the way to change the texts is you have to look in the preview. It's a little bit difficult, but I do it here instead of this question. After this question mark, I put in SAP-language equals en. And now let's have a look if we now get some English text. No, unfortunately, we don't. Let's put the question mark here. Okay. Let's see if it's switching. I don't. It seems as I don't get the switch. SAP-language equals en. Let's try a reload, because then it's really taking it hopefully into account. Well, no way. So it seems that's something I need to check. What way we can influence that. Let me bring it to here. Okay, then it can't open the app. So no, I haven't tried that. But you already seen that that German is working because my browser is set up for German.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks, Gregor. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. And looking forward for any questions. My presentation also contains some links for further resources. And yeah, I'm happy to get in touch with me if there's further questions, or simply post them on the SAP community for CAP.
Okay, just only one question from Damir Mayer from Munich. He asked, is CAP more configuration than programming?
I don't think so, because I think I haven't done any configuration because I created here my business object and the service. And what I have not yet shown is when you have specific business logic, and this specific business logic is then programming on specific events. As there is like an event for the read, for the create, update, delete, and there you can hook into and create your business logic. So, and I would say, yeah, and that is done here in the SRV folder. You create JavaScript files where you then implement. So I think it's a burden to get it running, and so you barely need configuration. Of course, you need a little bit configuration if you want to get authentication. So that is nicely described in the CAP documentation, which is on this cap.cloud.sap, also called or known by the name Capire, like the Italian for understand something. And yeah, here you get started into all the further details. And watch out and look. I would highly recommend the Open SAP course, Building Applications with SAP Cloud Application Programming Model. That's the best starting point to get a deeper understanding.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gregor, for your session. So now we have to switch from speakers. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome. See you.
See you, Gregor.